All right, if people could continue to make their way toward their seats. I do see at this time that we have attained quorum, so we are going to proceed with business. I am going.
Point of information.
Point of information. Go ahead.
Could we have a quorum check, please, and get an update from the credentials?
Order.
Nathan.
All right, please go ahead. Microphone 1.
Nathan Watts, Harris County. Point of information. Can we get an update from the credentials committee with the current quorum numbers, and then have so that we can see?
Absolutely. It's behind you. If the credentials committee representative could.
Hi, this is Christy Ford from the Credentials Committee. Thank you. Our current total is 224. Quorum is now 113. 2/3 is 150. 5/8, 140. 140? Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. All right, I am now going to recognize microphone 2.
Hi, I have a point of personal privilege.
Yes, could you please start with your name and county?
Kathleen Stokes, Collin County.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the committees, the Credentials Committee, the Bylaws Committee, the Executive Committee, staff, the members of SLEC for their work this term, for their time and efforts and their knowledge, the wisdom that they've put into this. On behalf of the delegation, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. That said, the next thing we're going to go to is back to the committee, unless someone has something privileged. Seeing nobody, Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now move to item number 20, tenure qualification. The committee felt strongly that in order to be a member of SLEC, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge about how the party operates, about how it does its day-to-day business. This experience can be obtained either by attending a number of SLEC meetings to watch by osmosis, county executive committee meetings in some cases, and so forth, just to learn how the party operates and proceeds normally. In order to gain that requisite experience, the easiest way that we found to actually be able to get that into the bylaws is to actually have a requirement that you be a voting member, not on a CEC, not on SLEC or anything like, or not being a piece of volunteer staff or something else. Simply that you would needed to have been a voting member of the party for the last 2 previous calendar years at the time of your selection. It's a generally modest requirement. I know that if any committee member wants to speak, but I know it's the general other committee member wants to speak, but it's generally the case that most committee members that have had time on SLEC that did not meet this qualification, on reflection, did not want to be members of SLEC without this qualification. And so this is just on reflection, is to see this is what they got into, that they really should have had more time to actually absorb what the party does before being on its highest executive board. Now, that being said, the committee also believed that you needed to have an out option. That, well, what if you have somebody of exceptional ability? Let's say that they're a person who was a state executive committee member of one of the parties that finally decided to give up the cause of trying to make one of those parties something functionally decent and decided to come to a real party. Well, that person, if they had exceptional experience, ability, or whatnot, then a convention or SLEC could decide to accept them anyway by doing a 3/4 vote of the majority of SLEC or by a majority of the convention. So this is saying that that's not an absolute requirement. It is not you have to be there. It is simply a matter of unless you can demonstrate that you have an exceptional ability to support on SLEC, that the requirement be that you be a voting member for 2 calendar years. So at this time, the committee considers number 20, tenure qualification moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pankey, and I can already tell by reading the room that's going to be simple, uncontroversial, and quick. And we will go to microphone 1.
Scott Ford, Harris County. So I'm speaking against this. Every 2 years or so, we have something similar pop up in potential rules. And, you know, it's kind of funny. Our first year people who want to be select, you can spot them in a heartbeat. They're here, they're dressed up, they're wearing suits, they're all nice, they're professional, they look like candidates. That was me my first year. Then my second year I was on select, and I didn't, you know, my first time on select it was 1, 2, 3, not it. And then my second year I was like, okay, I kind of got a feeling for these nut jobs and lunatics, and we can work with this. And then that state conference, I wore a suit in the first day and got a little comfortable on the next. Then the third one, again, same thing. I'm on my fourth one. I think next one I'm going to wear cut-off shorts. And, you know. But the thing is that I don't like purity tests. And the fact of the matter is that we should have a competition of people. We should have so many people at these conferences and these conventions that the best of the best get on select. Exactly. Not the 1, 2, 3, not it, which is what some districts are doing. Some counties are having to do this. Some districts are having to do this, where they might have one person here, or they might have 2 people here. Now, I can tell you personally, I fully believe in succession planning. I totally get this. Because your first time on select, you're like, Robert who? Who's a Robert? And you go, no, it's Robert Rules and all this other stuff. It's important for them to learn. And one of the reasons why I keep running, and one of the reasons I'm running again, is to help the next select member learn the rules of the road, to learn to be an effective select member, to know how to use Robert's rules effectively, to understand what's going on. And I would much rather see this done at the local level, at the SD level, where you have a senior person who has the scars and the gray hair. I don't look bad for 20 years old. And we can bring them up. We can get them ready. So eventually, those of us who are getting tired, need naps, I just turned 50 not long ago, we can kind of step back and know that our district's in good hands. But I'd much rather that being taken care of at the local level in the SD versus a gatekeep option at the state level. I totally get the point, but I'd rather see it handled locally with competition and a lot of people vying for the same position. Thank you.
Thank you. Microphone 2.
Hello, Eric Fain, Singlewood County. I also oppose this one. Sharing personal experience, in 2018 when I first got involved, I was one of those excited guys, right? Man, I want to get involved. What do I do more? What do I do more? And my Senate district, SD 8, they elected me. They had faith in me as we got together as a delegation and elected me to select, and it was a great experience. And I like the idea of this. I think it's smart to be thinking about, but I believe that this rules proposal gives power to SLEC that it does not have. SD representatives are elected by their delegation. And that happens at convention, and it should stay that way.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
I'm also speaking in opposition. Do we want to yield to someone who's speaking?
So yeah,
I will be speaking in favor, by the way.
okay, we'll go to microphone 2.
All right. Sean Huckabee, Bayer County. I'm speaking in favor of this motion. The first thing I want to mention, and I feel like when people bring up purity tests with this sort of thing, it's not actually reasonable. On account of the fact that, number one, we're not talking about do you believe X, Y, and Z. We're talking about experience operating in the party, essentially as an employee of the party. To me, expecting to be on the executive committee of the party when you just showed up would be like getting hired at a job and then on day 2 being like, hey, can I be on the executive committee of this business? They would look at you like you're insane. So I don't think that's really relevant. There is the opportunity, as outlined in the second part of the motion, that 3/4 majority can still put someone on select. But also the majority of productive work that somebody can do for this party doesn't require being on any executive committee at all. You can do just about anything you want. So to me, if someone shows up and says, I'm only willing to put in work if you put me on the executive committee before I've even been here for 2 years, to me that's automatically an indicator that we probably don't want you on the executive committee. So yeah, I'm speaking in favor of this motion. I think it's great.
Real quick, I'm going to take a little bit of chair's privilege and I'm going to put a question to the body. So under proper Robert's rules, you would take a for and then an against and then a for and back and forth. I have not been doing that because our microphone's set up is spread out. And normally we'd have a for microphone and an against microphone, and I believe that would create a burden for some of our people who have trouble getting around, to have to walk all the way across the room to get to a microphone. So, the question I'm going to put to the body is, do you want me to take it for and against, or just go back and forth on the microphone like we have? If you want me to go for and against, raise your hand. If you like it the way it is, raise your hand. We're going back and forth. Microphone 2. Microphone 1, sorry.
John, can I point of privilege for the committee?
Yes.
Just wanted to notate that the override is not just 3/4 of select. It's also a majority of the delegates at a state convention. Right. So this power is not simply to give to select. The power to give to select involves vacancy filling, where if you're filling a vacancy, then select needs to make that decision. However, when we're dealing with the SD caucuses, then the override provision is the majority of the delegates at this convention. Just wanted to make that clear to the body.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Joe Roberts, Dallas County. I am speaking in opposition. As was said before, this is absolutely gatekeeping. These Senate District select representatives need to be built from the ground up. Every voting member has the right to choose whom they want to represent them. And as another delegate, another speaker already addressed, it should be handled at the local level. If someone who is incompetent or someone who's a bad actor, that should be weeded out there. That being said, there are still mechanisms already in place if those bad actors or people who are otherwise disrupting the party, we already have provisions in select for censure and removal. So there are already policies in place to deal with those people. In addition, let's say we get 1 or 2 people who just are clueless or want to derail things. There's still, as it stands now, we still have 62 other potential delegates to overrule that, to compensate for that level of either incompetence about Robert's rules or whatever qualifications. I understand the rationale behind this. We're a growing party. We want to protect it. We don't want people coming in either who have no idea what we're about, no idea how to handle a meeting, no idea, or who worse, who want to somehow render us impotent as a party. I just don't think that this accomplishes it. It does, even though there are mechanisms to keep to allow competent people who are new to the party to participate. If someone in this room is competent and you're new, I don't know you. The select doesn't know you. I'm on select. We don't know you, so I trust the Senate districts to weed that through. Lastly, I want to point out something as an affiliate liaison. There is actually at least one Senate district who had no representation this entire last term because of lack of affiliation of the counties in that Senate district. My goal as an affiliate liaison is to build this party, to get more counties involved, to get more provisional chairs appointed, to get us established. If we're telling them that, okay, you're here now, but you cannot have any representation select because you are in a Senate district where you may be the only county, or there may be 2 new counties, and you're telling them, sorry, you can't have any oversight over this, even as a voting member, just because you haven't been here long enough. That actually denies potentially representation to people in newer counties who are qualified, who do want, I mean, it's just, representation is just fair. All right, so that's why I speak in opposition to it.
Thank you. The Secretary has requested a chance to speak on this, so I'm going to go to the Secretary, and then I'm going to go to Mike too. So, Madam Secretary, if you could state your name and county.
Stephanie Berlin, Bexar County. For those of you who know me, I've been around for a while. I started here in 1995, and the first time I ran for secretary, I was 20. And when people ask me, should you do that at 20 with no experience now, I would tell you no. You need experience. Further, I am not only in HR, but I've been training recruiters for the past 10 years. And one of the things we talk about is what are effective qualifications for a job. If somebody walks in and is managing you and has never done the job, do you respect them? No, you don't. You look at them like, who are you? Why do you have authority to manage me when you do not understand the basic qualifications? This is not about disenfranchising. This is not about keeping great people out, because you are all wonderful. okay? You're great. This is a difference between determining, is somebody qualified to understand how we work? Who is who? Do you have access to the TEC? Do you understand election code? Can you get your paperwork done? Because guess what? I don't care about paperwork. I hate it. I hate rules and I hate the law. But guess what? You know who does? You know who kick us off? The state government. And how many of you want to lose ballot access because we're putting people who do not understand the qualifications? That is what this is about. I highly encourage you to get involved. Get involved in your Senate districts. Get involved in your counties. Learn the process. Because I can tell you that if I had known then what I know now, I would have told the younger me, the little me who is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go, that you need to do other things first. And I yield. I'm done.
Thank you. Microphone 2.
Becca Congdon, Bexar County. I'm rising to speak in favor of this motion. First, I want to point out that this does not require that you be involved for 2 years. It is in the previous 2 years. So December 31st of 2 years before, it's basically 366 days here. Also, in absolutely no way does this stop anybody from getting involved. Does it stop anybody from having actual things to do in this party? In fact, all of you who filled out SELEC applications, if you put your reason for being on SELEC that you want to spread liberty, you're in the wrong place. That's not what SELEC does. SELEC is here to vote on the things that we have to take care of officially. If you want to get involved and spread liberty, that happens in the counties, that happens in your Senate district, that happens in staff, that happens as running as a candidate. All of those things are the things you can do to get started, and then once you have been around and you realize we're not the Republicans and the Democrats, we actually have a different culture here and we kind of want to keep it that way, then maybe there's going to be a great opportunity for you to be on the executive committee. But this is not something that stops anybody from getting involved and spreading the message of liberty.
All right, I'm going to go to microphone 1, but I'm going to warn you, you have 55 seconds.
Awesome. I have a quick request for information. Are there not effective SELEC members we have now who would have not been allowed if this proposal was in effect 2 years ago?
To answer that question, I think it is up to everybody to decide what an effective SELEC member means. Microphone
Not just
2,
that, but consider their vote
really
totals and their SD caucuses as well.
Pat Dixon, Travis County. I respectfully oppose this motion. This is a good idea. It should not be a bylaw. There's laws and there's common sense. This is common sense. We should all be doing this when we interview people for a job. Do you have experience? That's our responsibility. If we try to create laws to protect us from all bad decisions, then we're going to have bylaws that we can't comply with.
Thank you. At this time, time has expired for debate, so we will proceed to a vote. All right. Okay. We'll proceed to a vote on this item. All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? Wow. The negatives obtain 2/3, so that does not pass.
Wow.
All right, Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll now move to item number 21, officer duties. If you want to try to read how we took a paragraph that needed to be a list a long time ago and making it a list, and if you then feel free to. And if you want to, look at why this did not go in a non-controversial bundle, I suggest that you go read the Rules Committee meeting minutes and go try to figure out why that happened. Otherwise, I'm going to simply move, say that the committee has moved number 21, officer duties.
All right, I see no one approaching the microphone. Any objection to this motion? Hearing none, Mr. Pankey.
Thank you.
Oh, hold up. Did I hear objection? No, I didn't. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Number 22, clarify affiliation having been passed in the non-controversial bundle. We will move to number 23, duties of the State of the Executive Committee. And I will almost copy-paste what I said previously, simply that, I would like to note for the committee's report that there is a grammatical error that will be corrected in the final version, which was authorized by the committee this morning. Where the grammatical error where it says parties as being a plural parties, that was meant to be a possessive, parties in the possessive.
Party apostrophe S.
So that being noted, this proposal simply indicates in the bylaws, in the duties of a select representative, that it's a duty of the select representative to maintain a working knowledge of all of the party's governing documents. So that being said, it's very straightforward, and so at this time, the committee will move number 23, duties of the State Executive Committee.
Do we get 2 in a row? I see no one at a microphone. Is there any objection to this motion? Hearing, oh, I did hear objection. Do you want to speak to your objection? Okay.
So close. So close. Request for information. Can you define what a working knowledge means? How do we enforce that?
That is the perspective of the select when deciding whether or not to remove members.
There it is.
Remove for
Thank you.
Let's get some.
All right. There was objection, so we will proceed to a vote. All in favor of this motion, raise your hands. All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll now move to item number 24, select recall from office. Generally speaking, especially given the body's nature to generally oppose having prerequisites to get people on select, so to move it in a reactive fashion, the Rules Committee made a proposal that will allow the very entities that elected any select representative or officer to actually be removed by similar means. So there are 2 procedures that are bundled up in this. The first procedure is actually very easy to figure out, which is that if the body that elected that representative or officer decides that that representative or officer should no longer be in office, then they can, by petition, essentially do an undo of that election and go back and do a redo. So that is the first procedure. However, the committee also noted that there are cases where that procedure may not be able to be invoked because the original body that did the election is actually are no longer voting members or no longer present to actually make that happen. For example, if you're in a small SD and you have 3 people and 2 of those people are no longer voting members and the remaining person left in the SD, even though they would be voting against themselves, so that part's absurd. But definitely in the case of like officer interactions and so forth, is that if you find that you can't get the body together that did the election to actually convene to undo it by petition, that we have a second process that essentially makes it such that we go back to the majority of that entire SD, or in the case of officers, it's actually all voting members of LP Texas. Now, obviously, that's an incredibly high bar to get to, so if we needed to do that option, it would have to be an overwhelming political decision by this party that that officer should no longer be in place. However, we wanted to provide for that rule so that it would not be that option would not be barred from the party if it so sought to do so. So at this time, the committee moves number 24, select recall from office.
Mr. Chair, request for personal privilege.
Request for personal privilege.
Can we have some order? There's a lot of side grouping going on. It's difficult to hear even with the volume up.
Absolutely. I would request that the body return to order. That said, okay, it's been moved. I do see someone at the mic, so we will go to microphone 2.
Thank you. Trey Holcomb, Tarrant County. Just a point of inquiry. And Donovan, if you've answered this question already and I just missed it, I apologize. Would this be the same exact individuals who
that is
elected?
correct.
So
it is
if you had new
in the
people move in and join the party in that Senate district, they wouldn't be included in that petition?
Not in the first method. So in the first method, we go back to the minutes of the caucus or the convention that was used to elect, and those members are available on the first one. In the second option, you have the entire district has the ability to petition. So all voting members in the district, or for officers, all voting members of LP Texas.
So there's 2 different levels it could happen.
There's 2 different mechanisms.
Great. All right, thank you. That answered my question.
All right. I do want to quickly express a slight disagreement. I don't think we're calling yourself from Select after having been there for a little bit is absurd at all. That said, are you seeking the mic? Okay, nope. I see no one approaching a microphone, so at this time, is there any objection to this proposal? Objection. I do hear objection, so we will proceed to a vote. All in favor of this proposal, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 25, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle, we will now move to number 26, elections. So this is actually just more technical language than anything else that we need adopted to just clarify how elections were operated. So the first was that in our bylaws it actually says that we have a prohibition about slate nominations. First of all, Robert's Rules already has a selection on slate nominations, and if it is in Robert's Rules and Procedural, that can be overridden. It's actually also, if you are part of a large county and you attended their county convention, you will recognize that it's actually incredibly common, despite what these bylaws say, for the body to unanimously agree, for example, for state delegates to automatically nominate everybody who's a delegate to the county convention just to save time. So those are time savers done at county conventions, and we've thought that if that convention is unanimously voting to do that, then we should not be subverting the will of that particular convention. So we also wanted to note that people can be declined for public and party office instead of just public. You can decline to nominate anybody for party office as well. This is also a strengthening of the NOTA requirement. So people who aren't elections geeks talk about NOTA as being an individual option on a ballot. And in certain voting systems, it actually makes for a very complicated election to literally have an item that's called NOTA everywhere. And we've dealt with this and softened this language in previous terms. Instead, what we wanted to do, because of the nature of different voting systems that we have, to describe NOTA as something even stronger than NOTA. It is the right to not elect anybody. So this is reserving to any delegate, any voting member, the right to not put anybody in that place. And so we describe it as that, as opposed to trying to dictate how a particular ballot is done, so that we can allow the convention or whatever body needs to do that election to decide on their own how that's done based on whatever voting system they happen to be using. So this is very much a clarification and a strengthening of NOTA by describing it to cover more cases and be less technically cumbersome on anybody that's doing it. And the last part is really actually just almost some dead language that deals with old balloting procedures that's no longer followed, and we just decided to strike that as being redundant language in the bylaws. So this time, the committee would like to move number 26, elections.
Thank you. I do see microphone 1.
I'm going to be a little bit specific about what I'm going to comment on 4E107.
Could you start with your name and county?
Oh, James Golston, Denton County.
Thank you.
I thought I should throw in that as the author of this language, which is perhaps still the most recent time that something this significant was added from the floor at a state convention, I am okay with the changes to the language of 4E107.
Thank you. I see no one else approaching a microphone, so at this time we can proceed to a vote on this. All right, let's try this. Any objection to this proposal? Hearing none, motion passes. Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 27 having been covered in the non-controversial bundle. Number 28 having been passed in the non-controversial bundle. We shall now move to number 29, select prohibitions. Now, anybody who's been around for a minute knows exactly why this is here, knows exactly the situations it's designed to cover, but just to describe to anybody who hasn't, we are a political party. We are not an issues group. We are not, some random group that just wants to promote liberty in some generic sense. We have obligations, and we contort ourselves constantly to meet laws and things like that to continue to be a political party, an entity that actually elects candidates and has ballot access. And the committee felt that it's highly improper, that it's really a dereliction of duty and it's a betrayal of the voting members of the party if a member of SLEC, any SLEC officer or representative, uses the resources, the donation money for the Libertarian Party, the time, the energy of its volunteers and puts their imprimatur, decides to endorse a Republican or a Democrat. If you're going to be on the leadership of this body, and saying, I want to be a leader to promote the Libertarian Party, then no matter what whatever you feel like in your private life as a normal voting member, as a non-voting member who wants personal preference, you can do that. But if you want to be part of the executive committee, state executive committee of this party, then you need to promote the Libertarian Party. And so in the event that somebody misuses the party's resources in order to promote candidates from other parties, we wanted to significantly lower the bar to remove that person. And so at this time, the committee moves a number 29 select prohibitions.
Thank you. So really quickly, I do want to give a few notes to the body and ask for a favor. So right now, it is about 11:15, 11:19. This item goes until noon, and there are 9 items, including this one, that we need to get through. And Mr. Thomas had no faith in me to get through this rules report, so I'm asking the body to help me. We can actually finish this rules report.
For once, the first time since 2014.
That said, we will go to microphone 1.
60 items, that'll be a record. Nathan Garza. I don't like my voice on. Nathan Garza, Hayes County. I have no issue with this proposal generally. However, I do have a motion to amend that we strike simple majority vote to 2/3 vote.
I did hear a second, and you were trying to suspend and make the amendment in one motion?
I would like the body to consider.
So you would like to suspend the rules to consider an amendment, is what I'm hearing, so they can debate?
Yes.
Okay.
That's appropriate.
Yes. I do want to ask real quick, because I don't have the in front of me, does the Rules Committee understand where he's talking about where it's struck?
Yes.
You got it? Okay.
Yes.
We're all clear up here.
Yes.
Okay, with that said, we will now proceed to a vote on suspending the rules to consider the amendment. Point of order. I did hear a second, yes. That said, all in favor of suspending the rules of...
Just a second.
Mr. Garza, do I have this correct? It's on the screen.
By 2/3 vote. Yes.
Got you. Okay, sorry. I had to consult with the parliamentarian real quick. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor of suspending the rules to consider this amendment, I do want to point out, if we suspend the rules, passing the amendment will only take a majority once we talk about it. If we don't suspend the rules, then we just move on with the proposal. All in favor of suspending the rules, raise your hand. All opposed? That does not attain 2/3. Thank you. Microphone 1.
Sean Huckabee.
Sorry, microphone 2.
Yeah. Sean Huckabee, Bayer County. I move to call the question.
Is a point of information appropriate at this time?
What'd you say?
A point of information. Is
Point of information, yes.
Point of information. This prohibition on using resources for candidates of other parties, does this also equally apply to staff and officers, or is there another mechanism in the rules that applies this restriction to staff and officers?
The bylaws only need to address the select body because they're an elected body. The select can supply any policies that they want to do a similar measure in their policy manual.
I would also further state that an officer is a member of select, so...
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That said, the question, there's been a motion to call the question. Is there objection to calling the question? I do hear objection. We will proceed to a vote on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. All opposed? That carries. We will proceed to a vote on the motion. All in favor of passing this change, raise your hand. All opposed? That also carries. Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Number 30 having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle, we will move to item 31, which is temporary bylaws amendment. This is dealing with a problem whereby...
Request for information. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Do you mind, Mr. Pankey?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay, regarding the previous motion that just passed, would that also apply if, for example, we're having a state conference or we're having a libertarian thing and we happen to have, a guest speaker come in who's, Rand Paul, or if we have Thomas Macy or something like that, are those people now removed? Because that's promoting
any
a
answer
candidate.
I give will not necessarily be right because that is up to select to determine, so I really don't have the right
Okay, so that
answer
falls back to select to make that determination?
Yes, so-
Okay, so there is a scale. Okay, cool.
Yeah. All right, please proceed.
So number 31 is temporary bylaws amendment. The committee believes that in our current bylaws, by an overwhelming supermajority, that the body can adopt temporary bylaws amendments. These are things that are done, for example, to deal with 2020 and the insanity that came along with having to be barred from having state convention or having it on the appropriate date or whatnot. So when the select needs to do this by the supermajority, our bylaws dictate that temporary amendment has to go back before this body in the next state convention in order to be either voted to be upheld and made a permanent part of the bylaws or be struck down. Now, this particular bylaw provision says that if it is struck down, that, for example, if they decide to go lockdown on us again in 2024, or if they had in 2022, if we were in lockdown right now and in that crazy area, we did not renew any provision in 2020 and make it permanent. Therefore, according to this bylaw, we could not do it again. And given that during this convention is the time where the new select reps are elected, if the body didn't want the bylaw amendment in place, then all they have to do is make sure that there isn't that supermajority in select anymore, and it'll never get passed. So it's really a redundant thing, and it's restrictive in a way that it shouldn't be restrictive on select, given the crazy supermajorities needed to do this, given the fact that this does have to come up at the next state convention where the select members are elected. So at this time, the committee moves number 31, temporary bylaws amendment.
Thank you. I will quickly myself be speaking to this. I have been asked multiple times about an example of where this will be applicable. And I think one example that is not only applicable to this, but has been addressed in the past when we at one time years ago violated our bylaws. We have a bylaw right now that precludes us from taking on debt. But it is completely possible that one day a lawsuit or something comes up that would end this party, and select comes together and says we need to take on debt or the party's not going to exist. And we could pass that. And this body could come up and say, we don't want that to be permanent. Something happened, we're not mad at you, it was an emergency, we don't want that to be permanent. And if that happened, we would be completely barred for 2 more years from doing that if we got sued again during the next term. So, that is an example. Anyway, that said, I don't see anyone at a microphone, so we'll proceed to a vote. Is there any objection to this proposal? Hearing none, passes.
Next item number 32, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Item number 33 being passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Number 34 having been passed as part of the terminology bundle. There you go. We now will proceed to number 35, appearing before committees. So what this proposal did is that right now any committees of the convention have this odd rule because any delegate has the right to appear before a committee, and everybody thinks that makes sense. Problem is that we don't have delegates until after county convention. So you don't really know, and the committees have been meeting and operating well before even county convention happens. And we feel that, again, that most of procedures and amendments and so forth should be brought before the committees. And so why would we actually have a bar that says, well, you can't appear before the committee except until after you've been made a delegate. So what this really does is that it substantially increases the rights of any voting member. And that any time, even before precinct conventions, when everything resets, because these committees exist before precinct, any voting member can have the right to appear before a committee and give adoptions. It also clarifies the timing windows for the final appearance for an individual committee to actually take any public recommendations. The existing language was kind of mushy, and so we really wanted to just make sure that we actually make the committees just decide on, this is the last date, we made it public, this was a practice that we did this convention voluntarily. However, this simply clarifies that this is the job of the committee to adopt rules. Notice that it says committee shall adopt rules, and it also makes a bar on the committee for they have to accept proposals from voting members so long as the proposal was made properly before the committee and timely. So at this time, the committee moves number 35, appearing before committees.
Thank you, Mr. Pankey. I saw microphone 2 first.
I'd like to call the question. Carter Fanning for Bexar County.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Request for information.
Request for, what was the name of the county again?
Carter Fanning, Bexar County.
Thank you. I did hear a request for information.
Would this proposal essentially allow anyone who's qualified to be a voting member to attend committees and put proposals to them year-round?
These committees are only created by SELECT during the window in which they're operating the committee, but it does allow them to do it at any time there is a committee to present to. So some of these committees, for example, we're all going to be, we are not a continuing body. Come 2024, there will be a new rules committee formed for the 2024 state convention. The moment that SELECT does that, any voting member shall have the right to appear before that committee.
Thank you.
All right.
I also have a request for information.
Request for information.
I think we've settled this in the past, but I don't remember where we came on it. Does our status as a voting member reset at the beginning of every year?
Okay, so I'll answer that. So we have 2 things. We have party affiliation, which is something dictated by state law, and we have party membership. When you affiliate with a party, you become a party member. That party affiliation ends at the end of the year, but the membership continues on until the next convention. Okay. So that's a distinction. All right, with that said, we have a motion to call the question. We have not voted on that. Second. We have received a second. Is there any opposition to calling the question? Yes. There is objection. Of course. All those in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. Opposed? That carries. We will now proceed to a vote on the item. All in favor of adopting this item, raise your hand. Opposed? That carries. Mr. Pankey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item number 36, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Item number 37, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Item number 38, being passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Item number 39, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. Item number 40, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. If anybody wants me to slow down, just speak. Item number 41, having been passed as part of the non-controversial bundle. We will now move to item number 42, eliminating requirement for secret ballot. So I know this one gets a lot of talk because it says that when there's any contested race for party office or offices. First of all, I want to let everybody know we have NOTA. All offices are contested. Now, everybody must run against NOTA. Now, I want you to think about your county convention, because this applies to your county convention. If you recently in your county convention conducted a simple no objection vote, a simple hey, show of hands vote to do your convention, that technically did not comply with this particular section of the bylaws. Because the bylaws say that anytime there's a contested election, and honestly the term contested here is entirely redundant, it's entirely extraneous, because all elections are contested due to nota, that means every single time we get up and do an election anywhere at any convention, it means you have to go get out the paper and burn all that time and figure out how to run that particular election. So this item does not say we don't want secret ballots. Well, what we say is that convention body, depending upon the race that you're doing, can select the mechanism at which they run their convention vote. And generally speaking, most people that like secret ballots around here, I would generally presume that if you raised your hand at a convention and you said, I want a secret ballot, you're probably going to get a majority. And you're probably going to get what you need, and you're going to get your secret ballot. So this really, creates an area where unless we get really, really good at doing voting and spend a lot of money making sure that literally every single convention has good, fast voting equipment available to do secret ballots all the time, then this bylaw, we either are going to ignore our bylaws, which I suggest we don't do, or we have to go and hand count and deal with balloting for most conventions most of the time. So for those reasons, the committee moves number 42, eliminate requirement for secret ballot.
Thank you. And I saw a microphone 2 first.
Sean Huckabee, Bexar County. I move to call the question.
Thank you.
Objection.
There is objection. Is there a second? I do hear a second. We will proceed to a vote on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. All opposed? Ooh. We're going to count this one. Pat, you want to help me out over there?
Where's the ears? Where's your...
Yeah, we need 3. I can do the middle. Do you want to count that side? So here's the procedure we're about to do. I'm going to call all those in favor, and I'm going to come down to the middle, and they're going to be doing the same over there. You're going to keep your hand up, and they're going to point to you. And actually, if we do it 3 times, are we going to be talking over each other, you think? Yeah, okay, we're just going to do it once. I'm going to come down there and do it. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm going to come down there. We're going to raise our hands. I'm going to point to you. The first person's going to say 1 loudly. I'm going to point to the next person. They're going to say 2, and then 3, and then 4. And when you say your number, you put your hand down, and we're going to go through and count all the hands in the air. All right, we can do this quickly. All those in favor, raise your hand.
1. In favor of what's be clear. 2.
Oh, in favor of calling the question.
3. 4.
5.
6.
7.
Calling the question without.
11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16.
18.
27. 30. 31. 32.
33.
35. 37. 38. 39.
40.
41. 42.
44. 45.
46.
47.
48. 49. 50. 52. 54. 55.
Joe Burns. Joe Burns.
Joe.
58.
Over here. So like,
61. 64. 66. 67. 68. 69. 70. 71. 80.
97. All those opposed, raise your hand.
It's going to be close. Isn't it just, would it just be whether or not we get the majority? You have to count those things?
Simple majority about.
Screw the happiness, y'all.
14. 17. 18. 21.
Simple majority call question. Simple.
25.
25?
26.
27.
28. 29. 30.
31. 17.
34. 37. 40.
39. 40. 50. 51. 52. 56. 57. 58.
70. 71. 72. 73.
The best vote we've had so far. Big hard. Yeah. Didn't make professional.
6.
Anyone else?
It's close. Good.
95 to 89. Wow.
Motion fails. A lot more enthusiasm on the count.
Yeah, right?
Let's go with microphone 1.
I'm Billy Pierce with Harris County. So I'd like to draw the body's attention to bullying for voting. Right? The secret ballot is extremely important. And by the way, we are from Harris County, and by the way, we are really good at voting. We use something called OPA Vote, and it's cheap and effective and fast, and we hold more votes, I'm willing to bet, than the majority of the county conventions. And we're really good at it, and OPA Vote is a great way to do it. It has options for approval voting and all sorts of other kinds of voting, and it's cheap and effective and fast. Secret ballots are important, folks. I, in this party, during my time in this party, have been bullied over a vote where the administrators of the vote didn't do a sufficient job in protecting the identities and how people voted, and it was due to the hybrid nature of a particular vote. I understand that I would still have the opportunity to stand up and say, hey, body, I'd like a secret ballot on this one. But then I've just earmarked myself as that guy who wants a secret ballot. And if there's ever anybody wondering who's going to be the guy voting against this or for that person, or who noted me, then I've just marked myself for it. And some folks are too shy or too worried about the political repercussions or too worried about their friends, and we all vote differently in secret. Now, I would have supported an amendment to this that said, that redefined contested as, races with 2 or more candidates, or races with 2 or more human candidates, or races with 3 including NOTA. I would have supported something like that so that we could have done, simple show of hands voting for, guy A versus NOTA, but that's not what we got. What we got was striking down the sanctity of the secret ballot, and it's not something that I can support, and I can tell you it's not something we're going to do in my time as Harris County Chair.
Thank you.
Request for information.
What I hear, microphone 2?
Request for information, Nathan Watts, Harris County.
Go ahead.
The screen indicates the previous motion to call a question passed, but I believe it has been now corrected to say failed. That is correct. What's on the screen is now correct. Is that true?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Microphone 1.
Point of information, if this passes, does that apply to our state officer elections today? And if so, would the procedure be for a delegate to make a motion for a secret ballot?
We did not provide in this bylaw amendment for immediate effect. So if this amendment were to pass, then there would be a requirement for secret ballot for the remainder of the state convention, and then it would be up to the body in a future convention.
Microphone 2.
Pat Dixon, Travis County. This is actually a parliamentary inquiry, and I've been searching for it in Roberts, haven't found it. But in regard to secret ballot, we reference in our bylaws we're governed by Roberts rules. We can have a bylaw that supersedes that, but I guess my question is, from a parliamentary inquiry, could we be in conflict with Roberts in allowing a voting procedure where you you wouldn't protect the secrecy of the vote?
I don't think that's quite his question. I think he said if we did eliminate this, does Roberts require a secret ballot? It was his question. I don't believe it does.
For officers, Roberts requires, first off, requires a secret ballot to be an option.
But it doesn't require them to use that option. They could use
No,
show of hands.
exactly.
Yeah. So Roberts does not require a secret ballot.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Microphone one.
Point of information, Marvin McManus, Clayton County. My question is, I fully support what the gentleman said, the delegate said, about the fact that if there was 2 or more actual people. So my question is, can it be amended to that, or we're stuck with what it says now?
So if somebody wanted to make a well-crafted amendment in the short time we have and try and put it into our rules, that is in order with a suspension of the rules. I don't know that I would recommend doing that, but...
I would defer to the gentleman that made the great argument before. If he doesn't want to do it, then that's fine.
Okay. All right. Are you, please, microphone one.
Request for information.
Go ahead.
So the language that you spoke of, if I'm correct, all we're doing is deleting that paragraph that requires it, right? But
yes.
But does it speak anywhere to that the body will make a determination as to whether or not there's a secret ballot or not?
That's already covered in Roberts, so it's not in our rules.
It's already Roberts. I would also like to extend that any county party that wants to implement their own secret ballot requirements, if they're really good at voting and they want to implement it, they can put that in their bylaws too. So it's not. This is just because this covers this bylaw covers every single convention at every single layer of the Libertarian Party of Texas. So just clarifying for everybody.
So Billy Pierce from Harris County. Let's give this a try, folks.
I do believe that microphone 2 was...
Oh, of course. My apologies.
Go ahead.
Yes, Ted Brown, Travis County. Based on some of the people who have spoken already, I would like to move to suspend the rules to, instead of deleting that paragraph, to instead keep the paragraph, but change it to contested race between 2 or more individuals for any party office. So in other words, there would be no need for a written ballot or a secret ballot if there's just one person in NOTA, but if there's 2 or more individuals running, then that would still remain as the requirement.
And are you trying to suspend the rules to consider that, or suspend the rules and pass that as one motion?
I believe in debate, so it would be to suspend the rules to consider that.
So, so if the member would indulge, just given the consistency in our bylaws, could we use the term persons instead of individuals? That's what we use in other part of our bylaws.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. That said, I'm going to wait, let the secretary get caught up. First of all, is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a second, okay. Point of information. All right, so let me answer this by not answering it, okay? The committee gave a presentation of this rule and an interpretation of this rule, which I think could be a valid interpretation of this rule. I think the rule could also be interpreted otherwise, and I know that because I have in the past interpreted otherwise. Ultimately, the chair of any body, whether it's county or state or whoever, gets the first crack at interpreting a rule, and then the body gets to correct them if the body disagrees with that interpretation. So, it's up to you guys. We're almost there, guys.
So close.
Yes.
Is this correct?
Could you check the language on the screen, make sure that reflects your motion?
10 minutes.
Yeah, except for presidential,
Yeah,
yes.
I see that.
All right, so we are correct at this point?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, so at this time, we are going to suspend, we have a motion to suspend the rules to consider an amendment that would change this proposal to the language currently up on the screen. All those of suspending the rules, all those in favor of suspending the rules for that purpose, raise your hand. All those opposed? That does attain 2/3. We will now consider this motion.
Can I speak to it?
Please.
Okay, I think we've heard some of the debate on this already with this issue, but I think it's pretty clear that most people would want, if it's just between one person and none of the above, you could do a voice vote, all in favor of person X, aye, or all in favor of none of the above, aye. But if there's certainly two people running, then definitely the secret ballot is indicated, and we should keep that option for two or more people running.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Nathan Watts, Harris County. Speaking against this amendment, I actually do believe this is better than the language as is, but I think that the Rules Committee's proposal to simply strike this entirely is the strongest option in front of us. As I agree that, because as stated, striking it entirely just leaves it entirely up to the counties to decide the method to use. That's the most decentralized approach, and it's the approach that's going to potentially avoid us getting into trouble by accidentally breaking our own bylaws. So this proposal is better than what we have now, but it's still not as strong as the Rules Committee's proposal to completely strike it.
All right, I will note we have about 7 more minutes on this, so microphone 2.
I actually defer to Arthur. I wanted to hear from the Rules Committee on this amendment.
So the current proposal was to add just 2 more people, right?
Yeah, 2 more persons.
So I just wasn't sure. One of the concerns brought up was bullying, basically making your vote become public. And why is that still not a concern if we're looking at this when it comes to NOTA? Like, I actually am more concerned, the concern about 2 people and favoritism and stuff and pressure to vote for a particular person over another is a concern. But what about NOTA? What if you are in a room of people and you want to vote NOTA, but you feel pressured that the other people will judge you for voting NOTA? Why? That's the same to me. If we're going to consider that reasoning, that's the same reason. I don't want to strike this, but I don't know why that's any different over what we have now.
Yeah, and you still have the option to codify this into your own county bylaws. Yep. You still have that choice.
Thank you. Microphone 2.
Howdy. Daniel Keogh, Tarrant County. So I just want to clarify point of information. I would like it clarified. Due to the amendment we adopted earlier in regards to NOTA being defined as an ideal instead of a person, would this new amendment eliminate NOTA from being qualified as a persons in this case?
No, well, since we're specifying persons here, a NOTA is not a person. So this would exclude NOTA from being NOTA must be considered at all times. What this does is that it says you may use a voting procedure that is not secret if there is just a single person and NOTA.
Thank you. Microphone 1.
Jack Westbrook, Randall County. I want to speak against the amendment, first of all, and say that what the committee has proposed creates more liberty for everyone, and that's what we're about. And then I would like to call all questions.
Call all pending questions?
Yes.
All right. There's a second. There's been a motion to call all pending questions. I'll repeat from before. This will make us go through all the business until we get done with everything on the floor right now. There's a couple things. That said, we will now proceed to a vote on calling all pending questions. All in favor of calling all pending questions, raise your hand. All opposed? That carries. Okay, so first item of business is the amendment. This will require a majority. to consider the amendment as adoptable rather than our bylaws proposal. All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? That fails. We will now proceed to voting on adopting the original bylaws proposal. All in favor of the original bylaws proposal, raise your hand. All opposed? That does not attain 2/3. Motion fails.
Okay. Bring that one back next time.
Too bad.
All right. Going to item.
I just want to notify you we have 7 minutes until the rules report is completely finished, so keep that in mind as you proceed.
Yep. So item number 43, convention locations being passed as part of non-controversial bundle. Item number 44 passed being part of the non-controversial bundle. We will now move to item number 45, eliminate presumption of temporary chair. This is an incredibly simple amendment, and it is simply saying that it's the temporary chair that deals with the initial business, and it doesn't require it to be the state chair just in case the state chair is unavailable. So this time the committee moves number 45, eliminate presumption of temporary chair.
I see microphone 1.
Nathan Watts, Harris County. So my understanding is that if we make this change, it would have bylaw 4D5 subpoint 3 read, temporary chair introduces the temporary officers of the convention and turns the over gavel to temporary chair.
So we actually did, that actually was amended in a previous non-controversial bundle, I believe.
Thank you for pointing that. Could we see on the screen the language that's being considered right now then?
I do believe it's up there.
Yep. It is simply those two occurrences of state chair and turning it to temporary chair.
So I think the point I made then is still correct, that it would make subpoint 3 read temporary chair introduces temporary officers of the convention and turns over gavel to temporary chair.
Except the turn over the gavel pieces is what was amended in the non-controversial bundle proposal.
So can we see that on the screen?
Sure.
That's sorry. I'd like to see what we're considering.
It's the order of business. Yep, it's actually later in the report.
40, Rule 40.
40? Thank you.
Proposal 40.
Embedded changes.
It's now on screen.
You got it? Up there?
That's what we're changing.
Thank you.
All right. I am seeing no one else approach a microphone, so we can proceed to a vote on this. Does anyone object to this proposal? Hearing no objection, it passes.
Yay.
Yep.
Number 47.
All right. Item number 46, having been passed as part of the terminology bundle, we will now move to item number 47, placing an item on the agenda. So all this does is that this actually changes to the voting threshold a little bit for placing a petition, and it also to 15% as opposed to 10%. It also lists that the item where the item of business will be placed in the order of business, so that it gives the convention an idea of exactly where any petitioned item will end up on the agenda. So in this committee moves number 47, placing an item on the agenda.
All right, thank you. I see no one approaching a microphone, so we will proceed with the vote. Any objection to this item? There is objection. All in favor of adopting this proposal, raise your hand.
Oh, sorry.
All opposed? That carries.
All right. Item number 48, being passed as part of the non-controversial bundle, we will now move to number 49, delegate and alternate seating. So what this does is that, as you've already seen during this convention today, we have informal designations for things like delegation leaders, and we have these informal procedures about how alternates are handled and so forth. These are really because they involve the state convention, and a future convention may not really have an idea of what best practices are. This does codify into the bylaws these procedures, which you are already doing really today. So this just recognizes that. The other thing that it does is that it has been a contentious item in the past that these things, that these buttons that we have, that these mean that you're, that these identify your voting status, and if you somehow lost them, or if tomorrow you took them home on, if I put on a different sport coat tomorrow and I don't have this button available, that somehow means I lost my ability to vote. That is not the intent. These are quickie items that are used to quickly identify somebody as being able to vote. They do not represent your right to vote. Your presence here today and on the credentials report represents your right to vote. So we wanted to make sure that that was also codified in the bylaws. So this time the committee will move number 49, delegate and alternate seating.
Seeing no one approach the microphone, we can proceed to a vote. Any objection to this proposal? Hearing none, it carries.
All right. Item number 50, the Judicial Committee. So this item, many members have asked that there be the ability to appeal a decision of SLEC, and that there be an appeal process for decisions that they feel were improper. So we took up that as an option, said we wanted to present the body with how we should do it if the convention were to adopt it. And the way that we decided is, it should be really hard to be on the Judicial Committee. We do require 10 requirements. To be blunt, we're going to gatekeep the crap out of the Judicial Committee because they're an appellate body. They have the ability to overturn, and they're a much smaller body than SLEC. So everybody who likes representation, you got a body of 7 people that are working to overturn the decision of up to 66 people. Okay, so. Yes, we made it incredibly onerous to be on the Judicial Committee. We also said that the Judicial Committee can only deal with things that are the most contentious things that SLEC can do. Censuring of members, removal of SLEC members, people who are no longer qualified to be on the Executive Committee, which may be interpreted improperly by a SLEC. Failures to hold conventions, or things revolving around county governance, and that includes disaffiliation. So, only those things are the matters that go to the Judicial Committee. Otherwise, let's not send every single decision to a Judicial Committee. Vote, please. And it also defines the mechanics and process for how the Judicial Committee operates. And we were very intentional that if we can't find 5 people to be on the Judicial Committee, we shouldn't have one. So this is the appellate body. If we can find 5 people that we feel are qualified to serve, then we can do so. So at this time, the committee moves number 50, Judicial Committee.
All right, I will point out, at this time, it has been moved, and we are out of time. So, is this germane to the fact that we are out of time?
Yes.
Okay, microphone 2.
Motion to recess until the agenda says to come back.
Okay, we can do that. I will point out that if we do that motion to recess at this time, this motion will still be on the floor, and we will immediately come back to the motion to deal with it. Is that your intention?
Nah.
Huh?
No.
Okay. With that said, we are out of time for debate, so we can either do something.
May I make a motion to extend this item of business by 10 minutes?
You may.
Said motion.
All right. There's been a motion to extend time by 10 minutes. Is there objection?
Yes.
There is objection. All in favor of extending by 10 minutes, raise your hand. All opposed? Oh boy, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna do the hands one more time, and I'm gonna ask everybody to really express how you feel, because I know sometimes you don't feel like you need to vote, but it's really important. All in favor of extending, raise your hand. All opposed? I think that makes it.
It looked like the ayes have it.
What do you think?
The ayes have it? That's 2/3. Looked like the ayes had that. Yeah. 10 minutes.
Okay. I think it makes it. The parliamentarian thinks it makes it. We both think it's close. Are we fine to extend for 10 minutes and move on?
Yes, just 10
Okay.
minutes. Let's go.
That's it. We are extended for 10 minutes, and I will go microphone 2. Oh, you're not at the mic? Okay. Microphone 1.
Oh, great. Hey, Billy Pierce, Harris County. Quick question about this. I generally like this rule, and I think that it's been expressed appropriately. My question is about the 4-year requirement. Does the committee intend for that to be during the past 4 calendar years or for 365-day periods immediately preceding their appointment to the committee? Just help me understand the way that you're trying to quantify 4 years.
They had to have had a cumulative of 4 years, I believe, is how any normal chair
It says
would-
consecutive.
Well, it's the cumulative. It's consecutive years, but it does not have to be. So if you were a voting member for 10 years and then not a voting member for two years, then I would discern that would qualify.
Is that? I'm not sure that's the way the rule reads, sir.
At the time, yeah.
You didn't specify whether.
Yeah.
I just want to make
Yeah,
sure.
it doesn't specify that it's the 4 preceding calendar years. It's just
Okay.
4 consecutive years.
Any 4 consecutive.
Any 4 consecutive years. Yes.
I do want to point out a little bit further that while we can give advice on intent, what we wrote, at the end of the day, it's going to be you guys interpreting this.
A textualist, yeah. Thank you.
Microphone 1.
Yes.
Sorry, 2. I'm getting confused.
Ted Brown, Travis County. I'd like to speak in favor of the proposal. I was very surprised that Texas did not have a judicial committee before this. The National Party has one. Other state parties have them. In fact, in some states, the county parties even have them. And it's very good to have that possibility in case there's some sort of action by the executive committee or that might be a little bit untoward or whatever that needs to be looked at. And I think it's good to have this as an appeals body, so I strongly support the Judicial Committee.
Okay, microphone number 1.
Yeah, real quick request for information. How much opposition was there? I don't need to see a raise of hands or anything, but as far as the Rules Committee is concerned, is there dissent on the Rules Committee? I assume there is because it's not non-controversial.
Hold up. Let me clarify. How much dissent was there on a non-controversial bundle? Is that, how much dissent was there on this item?
My intent, which would influence my vote, is how much support from majority of the Rules Committee does
This proposal had?
Yes.
There were very few proposals that we didn't get to unanimous consent on. I don't actually remember the voting threshold, but were we unanimous on this one?
I believe we were.
I think we called a roll call vote because we wanted the vote on the record, but I believe that was unanimous.
Okay.
Yes.
We can go back to the minutes. But
Yeah, and the reason we did not include this in the non-controversial bundle was because we wanted to give you guys the opportunity to debate it
Okay.
and discuss it.
Well, with that understood, I'd like to call the question, please.
All right. Hey, can you repeat your name? It didn't get in the minutes.
And county.
Eric Van Single, Wood County.
Thank you. All right, there has been a motion to call the question and a second. Is there objection to calling the question?
Objection.
There is objection. We will proceed to a vote. All in favor of calling the question, raise your hand. All opposed? That carries. We will now proceed to a vote on the proposal. All in favor of the proposal, raise your hand. All opposed? That also carries.
Yes.
Wow, we have a JC.
Oh, wow. All right.
It's not affected on me. Request for information.
Request for information.
Nathan Monteros County. The motion or the proposal we just passed, does it go into effect immediately such that we will elect a judicial committee at this convention?
It does not.
Thank you.
All right.
Can I move to adjourn to lunch now that we got 50 out of the way?
Yeah, so that's interesting. We have time on there. So what I would recommend...
Yeah, I think we extended more than we needed to cover that.
Yeah, so here's what I would recommend. If you're doing what I think you're doing, is you want to make a motion to end this item of business and recess to lunch. Is that what you want to do?
That's what the law Yes.
Okay, that's going to be a 2/3 vote because we do have to end the item of business. Go ahead. Your name and county?
Colby Micey, Midland County.
So, but we can proceed to a vote if there's a second. Okay. All in favor of ending this item of business and recessing to lunch, raise your hand. Opposed? That carries.
Only 7 proposals we didn't get to. Good job, guys.
Thank you, everyone. All right, ladies and gentlemen. If you purchase Porcupine package, VIP package,
We're done.
Or the package that includes your lunch. It is being served in the Melody Ballroom. So we will see you all there, and we'll be back in here promptly at 1:30. Enjoy your lunch.
So much. You're welcome. Thank you. Team, call the question.
Hey guys, while we are at recess, we aren't on the agenda here. Spike would like to address you guys for just a couple of minutes. If you'd like to hear what he has to say, that's great. If not, you feel free to be released to go graze for lunch. But I'm going to turn the mic over to Spike for a couple of minutes.
Hey y'all, how's everyone doing? Yes. Libertarian Party, no problem, thank you, Whitney. Libertarian Party of Texas, I'm so happy to see y'all. I don't want to waste much of your time because I know you want to get to lunch, you're hungry just like everyone else. But I know what you're thinking, folks. Spike, something is missing from this convention. Just something is missing. I'm here, I'm helping the party, we're helping to grow the movement, we're helping. No, my wife is here, okay? Something else is missing. Actually, something's missing because that's not missing. We're helping the party grow. We're contributing to this party. We're contributing to this movement. We're getting candidates running for office. We're working to set this county that I live in, this state, and this country free. And we're also bringing home some really sweet libertarian swag to show off to our family who just doesn't quite get why we keep doing that. But something else is missing. Spike, I'm a Texan. And if there's one thing that I want to do at given any potential opportunity, it's show that Texas is the best. Am I right? Okay, remember that, because I'm going to hold you to that in a minute. And you're thinking, Spike, I want to show everyone Texas is bigger and better than any of those other 49 states, including the one I'm from, South Carolina, right? But there is no way, Spike, there is no way that I can help this party, help the Libertarian Party of Texas, that I can get swag and that we can beat the other states all at once, and certainly not for the low, low price of $20. Well, folks, I have some fantastic news for you. I hold in my left hand, your right hand, the opportunity to do all three of those things at once. Let me tell you what I have here. This is a Spike Cohen You Are the Power swag bag, and all of the proceeds for that $20 will go right here to the Libertarian Party of Texas to help you in your fight for liberty right here in Texas. Now, here's what you are going to get. For the low price, yes, of 20 U.S. Federal Reserve notes, which I will remind you are losing value as I speak right now. By the time this speech is over, that $20 will be worth roughly $19.97, but I will continue to honor that price for you just today. Now, here's what you will get. First of all, you will get a Spike Cohen You Are the Power wristband, just like the one I wear every single day, made of the finest, I assume, silicone. I don't know what wristbands are made out of. Also, we have a Spike Cohen You Are the Power button, because as we all know, libertarians love buttons like buttons love libertarians. My wife's right here, by the way. You can all applaud her. Care way more. By the way, Tasha wants you to buy these. She just told me that, okay? So yeah, she demands, she will like you so much more if you buy these. And then also you get another button for the second largest caucus in the Libertarian Party, the fastest growing caucus. I invite you to become a part of the takeover by joining the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus and getting a Waffle House Caucus button. I know some people got nervous there, but get Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus button comes with it. And then finally, so that you have something you can show normal people, we have a portrait. I will sign it and put your name on it and personalize it so you can tell folks, hey, I met someone who is so self-important that he signs pictures of himself and then sells them to strangers. So anyway, all of this is available for $20. Again, all the proceeds stay right here with the Libertarian Party of Texas. If you want one, you can meet me anytime during the convention. I'm going to camp out for a bit over there by the Defy the Power booth over there. I'll see you at lunch. I'll see you at the gala. I'll see you in between there during business. I'd be happy to make one for you. We accept cash, obviously, Venmo. I can take Venmo, or you can go to the Libertarian, what is it, lptx.org or lptexas.org? lptexas.org. Show me that you made a donation of at least $20, and I'm happy to give you one. Folks, thanks again so much for being a part of this. The work you are doing is saving lives and improving many more. I love y'all. Thank you so much.